to you. In the horrific event of chemical weapons being used by Russians who get bogged down in Ukraine, as they seem to be doing, what ought we to do?
I'm not sure we have that many options. We can continue to tighten the screws, but we've also we've already tightened the screws as much as we can do. The reality is that the Syrians, with their Russian allies, used chemical weapons very effectively, sad to say, in Syria. And we let it happen there because we had the option to do something. We decided not to, and people would say, well, let's hope we don't live to regret it, and maybe this is an example of us living to regret that. Chemical weapons are very effective when it comes to emptying cities, Colin, because they're heavier than air. So sarin and chlorine, which is only lethal for half an hour at most, they flow into the basements like running water, and they strangle and suffocate the people there and kill them in absolutely horrific circumstances. But that is their use. And after 4 years of the Aleppo siege, the siege was raised in a dozen days because they used chemical weapons for a dozen days.
And you can see why somebody who feels they've got nothing to lose, if you're Vladimir Putin, you're in the bunker in the Kremlin, and you think, well, if I lose this war, if I'm unseated and I end up in The Hague, I'm already going to be facing war crimes charges for what's happened already. We've been bombing civilian areas, we've had humanitarian corridors, my generals have opened them, and then we've shelled them. He may feel he can go further because he's already in a lot of trouble.
Yes. So I think there are two responses to that. Firstly, I think this is probably going to be okay. There isn't much which is a red line for the Russian people because they've had 20 years of Putin propaganda, and the majority of people even now believe what they're being told on Russian TV because they don't have other sources of information and they don't want other sources of information. So the minority of voices who are educated tend to be younger, tend to be tied much more into the internet, in St. Petersburg, in Moscow. These people are not the majority in Russia. The majority in Russia will accept a somewhat thuggish dictator as long as there's order and stability and some hope of a better life at some point. Secondly, I do think we need to continue to have a way out for Putin. There is no point getting 100% victory if Ukraine and indeed Europe is an irradiated wasteland. So we have to be very mindful that we frankly underreacted for many years, which is hugely frustrating. And now what we need to not do is overreact now.